Good. Good. Very good. It is good when the cherry trees are in blossom that we come together to listen to the young, when the whole world is young. So you middle people, listen to your students. Parents, listen to your children. For I am an old one. I am not of the middle age, and soon I will be with the ancestors. But I have come to listen to the young. But first, I want to tell you a story of why we are all here. Do you know how to look into now? To open up now, it's a very long time, and see everything that's in it. How did you get to be here? Why am I here? Why are you here now? You have to open up now, and it's a very long time if you do. So let me tell you the story of Ross. Once upon a time, in a really great land, large, with an eastern sea and a western sea, there were two great cities, one on the eastern sea with towers that reached into heaven, and the weather was cold, and the winters were long, and the people liked to read. And so the city became a place where books were published, where magazines were published, and everyone loved reading. And a certain merchant was born in that city, and his name was Ross. But he traveled far and wide, and in his travels he went all the way to the city of the Western Sea. And there the weather was wonderful, the sun shone all the time, the people loved to move, but they didn't like to sit and read. And so they loved to have moving images. And they had moving images on big screens when they would get together. And when they were alone in their homes, they had smaller screens that they would watch. But they didn't like to read. And suddenly in his travels, he thought about this, the great merchant, and he thought, what would happen if I brought the movies of the West with the books of the East and brought them together and made a great, great, great company? And it was a wonderful idea. And so all these two cities came together because of this one man. And so this man was Ross. And through this idea that he had all by himself, he became immensely wealthy. And people looked up to him. And he could do things that no other people could do. And everybody liked him. But then, as often happens in stories, right at the moment of his peak of success, he got very, very sick and was dying. Now, this man was married to a very young and beautiful woman, and she was very sad that her husband was sick. And so they got together and said, what shall we do? And she said, I'm tired of age and dying. I want to do something that can stop death. And he said, but look, for all my wealth, I have not been able to stop death. Death is stronger than wealth. What can we do? And then the woman, his wife, had an idea and said, what if we went to the opposite end of life and looked for the meaning of life, not with the old and the wise, but with the young? And we created a special place for them to come together. And they thought that was a wonderful idea. And then, sadly, the man died, and the woman was left in sorrow. And she had her young daughter, and she worried, what could she do to make things different? She didn't want an ordinary kind of place to bring the young together. She wanted something special. So she followed in the footsteps of her husband, and she went to the great city of the Western Sea. And there she was received by friends and people. And while she was sitting there in their living room, there was a magazine on a coffee table. And it had a picture of a wise old man, a man of science and mathematics, a wizard. And he was bearded as I'm bearded. And she picked up that magazine, and a little voice in her head said, "Read this." And she read this man's story. And quickly she got to the phone and said, "Come down. Come see me. I want to talk to you. I want you to help me." And so the wizard did. And he came down. And she said, "Come to my place. Come to see the school that I want to build." And so he did. And he came, and she said, "But I need someone to create a curriculum, a story. I want things to be different in this school, not to be like any other school in the world. And do you know anybody can help me with this?" And he said, "I do. You must go see the old man of the mountains." And she said, "Well, call him up and tell him to come here right away. I need him." "Oh, no, he will not come to you. You must go to him." Now, this old man of the mountains lived high up in the middle of the vast land, very high up, with a mountain in his backyard going up to 14,300 feet. And he lived in a simple log cabin. And the old man looked out his window and he laughed, because there was this luxurious limousine, town car, and chauffeur trying to get up his dirt path, trying to find a way up the mountain. The old man just had a common Jeep. And he laughed as they struggled to get up. And they finally were able to get up to the top where the cabin was. And they got out of the car. And the old man of the mountains looked at the woman and said, "Oh, she's much younger than I thought. And she's very pretty. But is she vain? We will see." So she came into his house, and they sat down, and she said, "I need your help. I want you to design a story that can make my school different from all the schools all over the world. Will you help me?" And the old man said, "That is not what I do. I am up here in my mountain, and I belong to a college of wizards, and they come here and we meet because we're worried about the earth. We're worried about the dolphins being killed, about the elephants being killed, about the whales being killed, about the ocean filled with plastic bags. And our scientists and our wizards are working to fix this and make it better. That is my work." And he said, "But," she said, and looked at the man, "No, no, no, old man, you don't understand. I don't want an ordinary curriculum. I don't want an ordinary story. I don't want to go back to the big schools of the East and hire some professional. I want something different, a new structure, a new way of doing things." And that caught the old man's attention, because he thought, now, here is something truly interesting, to do something that is not like any other school. So he said, "Well, give me a week, and I will think about it." And then, because she was there, he took her to this temple that he had built, this chapel high in the mountains, and it was round with a vaulted dome that one of the wizards of the college had built. And the old man of the mountains had designed the floor, and he took the beautiful young woman into the floor of the chapel, and he said, "Look, what do you see?" And she said, "I see bricks." "Look again. What do you see?" Aha. And she could see that it was a spiral, and the whole floor laid with bricks was in the shape of the face of a sunflower. And the sunflower is a magical flower, and so it always looks toward the sun. And so he pointed to it and said, "Think about that." And then she left, and he closed the door and thought, well, she is pretty, but is she vain? She is powerful and wealthy, but is she arrogant? And so he asked his narwhal while he was alone, "Do you know what a narwhal is?" A narwhal is your secret soul that couldn't squeeze into your body and always floats above, and it gives you advice while you sleep, and it sends you in dreams. And you know what your parents don't know? That when you're sleeping, the narwhal moves into the body of your stuffed animal. And your parents think the stuffed animal is just dead and not living, but you know better. The narwhal, your stuffed animal, mine was a panda bear. They are ensouled with a narwhal. And they speak and whisper to you when you're dreaming, and they give you special dreams and chase away the nightmares. Narwhals are very important. And when you're in the 7th grade, you will hear about how the serpent learned to fly. Think of that. And he became the plumaged serpent, Quetzalcoatl. And that is a story that is waiting for you. But today is the story of Ross. So the narwhal spoke to the old man of the mountains. And he said, "She is good, help her." And the narwhal said, "And I will help you." So together they spent a week in silence, creating another spiral that would be the spiral of all the stories of the world in every part to give to the woman of the city on the eastern sea. And so when the week was over, he gave it to the woman and said, "Here it is. And now I am done." And she said, "No, you're not done. I want you to come off the mountain. I want you to come with us and see the children, live with and work with us. I want you to become a mentor of Ross." And he thought, wow, is that something I should do? And he came down off the mountain, and then he began to work with the children. And he so liked what he saw that he kept coming again and again and again. And then the old man became very old. And soon he was preparing to go to the ancestors, where he would continue to learn just as you're going to learn. And so Ross is a place, not my story, but your story, our story. And so it begins with stories, and now it's time for all of us to listen to you as you tell the story of the ancients, because you can tell the story of the ancients better than the middle parents, because you have your narwhal that is talking to you at night in your sleep. And so you have your own inner font of wisdom. You too will be wizards in the future. So now it's time for me to move on, for the old to make place for the new and the young, and for all of us to watch and listen as you all tell and dance the story of stories of who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. And I am done.